Hi everybody, this is Lindsay from windingroadcrochet.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make a scrap bag using scrap yarn that you have. You can find the full written tutorial on my blog as well as several other free crochet patterns, so make sure to check it out. The link is in the description box below. Alright, so the very first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to get our yarn ready. Now I took a lot of spare yarn that I had. I stretched it out into pieces that were about 10 to 20 feet in length, and then I randomly knotted them together and then wound them up into this cake, and my intention was to get almost like a rag rug kind of look when I crocheted this all together. I wanted to have a lot of different stripes, so that is how I prep my yarn. And if you want to know, I actually use something called a surgeon's knot to knot them together. I find that works really well, but of course you don't have to knot them if you don't like knots in your project. I just thought since this was already going to be a very scrappy looking project, I was okay with the knots. So I did go ahead and prep myself 2 cakes of this, but I barely cracked into the second cake. You can find the full materials list in the written pattern, which the link for that is in the description box below. But let's go ahead and start crocheting because this is a very easy beginner friendly pattern, and I'm even going to show you how to do it without having to sew anything. So I'm going to be using a size H crochet hook, and the yarn I have here is a medium weight or a worsted weight yarn. And we are making a bag that is going to be 12 inches wide by 10 inches tall by 2 inches deep, and I will show you how to do that out of a simple rectangle. To get started, we are going to make a slip knot, and we are just going to put it on our hook. We are going to start out by chaining, and you are going to need to chain 55. Though again, if you want this to be wider, feel free to chain more. If you want it to be taller, you're going to be able to work more rows. It's a very easy pattern to adjust. Just remember when you make it wider that that width is also going to accommodate one full side of the side of your bag, as well as the front. So when you're looking at how wide you want to make this, think about the front of the bag as well as the depth of the bag. Add that together, and that's how long you want this chain to be. So once you're done chaining 55, you're just going to single crochet into the second chain from the hook. I like to do this in the back loops of the chains just because this is going to be our finished edge on the top of the bag. But all you're going to do is single crochet into every chain all the way across. If you like the tutorial, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below for me. Once you reach the end of row 1, you're just going to chain 1, turn your work, and then single crochet into every stitch across this row. And you're going to repeat this row until you have a total of 108 rows. Or again, if you want to make it a taller bag, you can keep going as tall as you want. Just remember that the height of your rectangle that we are making right now needs to be the same height as the bag times 2 plus the height of the depth of your bag. That's how tall you want to make this rectangle. In our case, that's going to be 108 rows in order to make a 10-inch tall bag with a 2-inch depth. So now I'm at the end of row 108, just finishing up my last few stitches. And then I wanted to make this a no sew project, or at least show you how to complete this bag without having to sew at all. So in order to do that, the next thing we actually have to do is to take our bag and fold it in half. And we are going to single crochet down the sides of these rows, but we're going to be single crocheting through both pieces of the bag. So from here, I'm just going to chain 1 to give me some room to work. I'm going to push my hook through the first stitch on this top piece of fabric, and then through the first row on the back side. Yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through those 2 loops. So we're just single crocheting down the edge, but we are going through both sides of the bags, going through one side of the stitch on the top and the bottom part of the bag. Now, if this seems confusing to you, you do not have to do it this way. I just tend to like to crochet things together over sewing them. If you don't want to crochet down the side of the bag like this, you could go ahead and fasten off, fold your bag in half, and just do a whip stitch down both sides of the bag. But the first thing we're going to need to do in order to create a flat bottom bag that has a 2-inch depth is to actually make a flat bag by crocheting down the sides of our bag just like this. And then when you do crochet this way, it's going to look similar to a whip stitch on the inside, but I'm completely fine with this look because this is a scrappy bag as it is, so I'm okay with these little hashes on the side of the bag where our seam is. I think they just add a little character. And as I said, I really wanted this bag to look like a rag rug, so cutting all those strips took a little while, but I really think it gave it a very unique look. So once you make it to the end of the bag, all you need to do is fasten off and weave in this end, and then repeat the exact same thing for the other side of the bag. So now that we have both side seams done, we are going to turn this from a flat bag to a 3D shaped or a flat bottom bag. First, you want to take a look at the stripe you have at the very bottom of your bag, because we are going to be lining that up, opening our bag up, and lining up our side seam with that very bottom seam. So we just line up these two here, and we're going to make one really quick stitch or a really quick line of stitches in order to make this into a flat bottom bag. And the first thing we want to do is, as I said before, we are going to make a 2-inch depth. So I'm going to take my ruler and I am going to line up along the one is going to line up right in that center seam here. And I'm going to slide it down until the edges of this point here hit the edge of the ruler and the number 2 mark. That is going to give me a 2-inch depth to my bag. Of course, you can make it much thicker if you would like to, but for me 2 inches was enough. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my hook and some more yarn, and I'm going to slip stitch across this line here that I've identified. This 2-inch point, I'm just kind of looking at what stitches, what lines of stitches we're going to go through. I'm going to push my hook through, yarn over, pull through the fabric, and then pull for the hoop on my hook, and then repeat that. So yarn over, pull through the fabric, pull through the loop on my hook, and this is just slip stitching across in order to create a seam here. Now, if you're not comfortable with slip stitching across, again, you can definitely take yarn and needle and just sew a really small seam here, and this is going to give you that flat bottom. You're also going to want to repeat this process on the other side. Once you reach the very end, you'll just fasten off, weave in your ends, and you'll be ready to do the other side, and then you'll have your flat bottom bag. We will turn this bag inside out so that all the seams are on the inside. There we go. So that's just our finished seam, and then let me show you what it looks like when I turn the bag inside out. So when I turn it inside out, it actually is creating that flat bottom here. So now we have a 2-inch depth to our bag and a center seam down the side. So now we have our flat bottom bag. We are going to need to make some straps to put our rope through to create a handle for this bag. And so I'm going to show you how to do those. I've already done one on one side. And again, it's still really simple. We're basically going to crochet a rectangle. This time we're just going to chain 9. Alright, so now we have 9 single crochet in the second chain from the hook and in every chain across. Alright, then you're just going to chain 1 and single crochet in every stitch across. Again, we want to do a total of 6 rows. So once you have all 6 rows worked up, we are going to take this piece and we are going to slip stitch it onto our bag. Now again, if you'd like to, you can definitely sew this in place as well. But if you don't want to sew, you can definitely slip stitch it on. So just take your sample. Your sample is 8 stitches wide, so we want to make sure that we have 4 stitches on each side of this side seam here. Just put one side along the back and one side along the front. Then take your hook and push it through the first stitch on this side. Count over 4 stitches on your bag. Push it through the stitch of the bag, and then go to the bottom of our piece and push it through the first stitch on the bottom of this tiny rectangle we've made. Alright, yarn over and pull that loop through all 3 pieces of fabric and then through the loop on your hook. And then move to the next stitch. So with the next stitch you'll go into the second stitch, go into the next stitch on the bag, and then I actually went ahead and put my piece of rope in right now, but that's not necessary. You can weave it through later. Put it through the next stitch on the other side and just continue slip stitching all the way across. And I said, if it's too complicated, you can always just sew it on. Alright, so when you reach the end, you are just going to fasten off. As you see, I already went ahead and put my rope in and kind of folded over the rope as I went. But what you're going to need to do after you fasten off and weave in your ends is take a piece of rope. My rope is about 75 inches wide. It is a 9/32 width rope. And I wove it through both of these ends and then took my ends and then just knotted them together. So just do a hand over knot at the edge. And then what I did with the very end is I used a brush and unraveled all of my fibers so that it looked like a little tassel at the end. But this is a really quick and fun way to make a handle for a bag without having to crochet something, with just having a really nice quick handle finish. So then you'll have 2 straps go over your shoulder when you're creating your bag. And you're all done. I really hope you enjoyed this yarn scrap bag and learning how to make a flat bottom bag from a rectangle. If you did, make sure to subscribe, make sure to like the video, hit the notification bell to be notified of new patterns, and leave me a comment in the comments below and tell me what you think.